Okay, I'm Hugh DeLong, and I'm the Interim Director of Math, Information, and Life Sciences. And since Mark left me so much time, that means I never have to worry about running over, right? I have the distinction of being the Interim Director for RSL and also the last Director of RSL. All right, what I wanted to start with is some documents that that sort of give guidance to areas in which we are investing as a directorate. And the first up that I have here is Technology Horizons. And these reports are issued by the Air Force roughly every 10 years. This is number 7, although they actually haven't gotten one to be exactly 10 years from the next one, but they're roughly about that. And they focus on a 20-year time horizon. I know it says here 10 to 20, and that's only because of the way the report defines science. They want to have a capability by the end of 20 years. The 10-year time frame is to have the technology at a TR level 6. So you get TR level 6 within 10 years, and then finally a capability within 20. And so in the report, if you've looked at this report, it's actually not a very long one. And so it doesn't take that long to read. I mean, if anybody remembers, in '95, I was a program manager back then, and we got the New World Vistas report. That thing was 1,300 pages long, and it had a lot of volumes to it, so it took a lot of time to get through it all. But you'll notice that there's a common theme of autonomy in this. And my directorate actually has autonomy as a common theme throughout the directorate as well. And in fact, we have the lead person for AFRL, or for AFOSR, in autonomy, which is Dr. Fariba Faroux, and she'll be talking about that during her Dynamics and Control program. But anyway, the report has 4 grand challenges in it. And these are the grand challenges, and you probably saw the list of them on Tom Russell's talk. All of them also have a common theme of autonomy. You have to have secure networks in order to achieve autonomy. You have to have trusted systems because you're leading these things go out there, do things on their own, and you have to trust that they're going to accomplish them. You want them to survive. They're going to be remotely piloted. So they have to have some type of survival mechanism. And finally, they have to work in difficult environments. Okay, difficult environments. The last bullet here I have on here, not all of the technologies require new basic science. That's true because, you know, the bottom line is you have to reach TR level 6 in 10 years. Listed about 110 technology areas, and if you look over all of the different capabilities that they talk about, there is a common theme of these 27 within all of those capability areas. And so my directorate actually performs research in almost all of these, 20 of the 27. Okay. So we're a pretty broadly based directorate. God, is that me? Should I be over here? Maybe I'm too close to the speaker. And so as you can see, we cover pretty much everything. The ones that we don't cover are actually covered by physics as well, besides overlapping us on some of the other areas. So you see we're well positioned to be addressing the key technology areas for the Technology Horizons report. Okay, one of the other guiding forces, of course, is our own strategic plan. And within our own strategic plan, we have 10 focus areas. And of those 10 focus areas, we actually are addressing 4 of them. And the 4 we address are information and complex networks, decision-making, dynamical systems, optimization and control, and natural materials and systems. Okay. Under information complex networks, this is a rather large program. In fact, it's the largest percentage of my entire directorate. And it's covered by a number of PMs. And they essentially manage information from the source of the information, the security of the information, how do you move it through the system, what is the security of the system, what is the reliability of the system. All aspects of information and the movement of that information is handled by the various programs under this particular focus area. Decision making, there are a few program managers under this one. They're mainly focused on mathematical laws and foundational principles, looking at robust decision making, and because, again, we talked about autonomy, looking at human-machine decision making. Another area that we are focused on is trust, and as I mentioned before, in one of the grand challenges, you have to look at trust if you're going to send these autonomous systems out and expect them to operate on their own. And so he's dealing with trust. He's also dealing with influence, and you have to understand cultural variations in how people think and how they make their decisions. And of course, that's addressed under that program. Dynamic systems, optimization control, and computational math, that's a large mouthful. But that includes all of the dynamics and control program. And again, if you looked at the Tech Horizons report, they specifically talk about the need for control, including verification and validation. And so that is addressed in Dr. Farou's program. We're also looking at all aspects of control. We have an optimization program looking at solving large complex problems. You see a lot of those in logistic areas. And then finally, we have uncertainty quantification, and we do look at multi-scale modeling. Even in my own bio program, we actually deal with multi-scale systems, and there was definitely a need for a program manager to handle the looking at multi-scale modeling. And then finally, the last focus area that we address is natural materials and systems, and we're looking at mimicking natural systems, or using materials that we get from nature, making materials we get from nature through engineering systems to create them. And then finally, we're also looking at just using the system or the material itself that we found in nature. We'll use it as is, such as using the protein coats of viruses for optical materials. Okay, and then of course we always want to keep this in mind that we're working under extreme conditions. And of course, one of the concerns of using biosystems has always been, can they perform under different conditions because of the perceived fragility. And so this is to help people understand that yes, biology can work in these extreme conditions. So these are the programs that we have in the Directorate. As you can see in the information and complex networks, we have a number of systems, except for this last one here. Dr. Dream is actually in physics, but it ties in well with these other systems. And so Dr. Bonneau, you'll hear up first, we'll be talking about complex networks. I always think of those as adaptable, changeable networks myself, not being a network person, but knowing that the networks he's looking at have components that are moving in and out all the time. And so the actual nature of the network is changing. Also, Herklotz will be talking up next. Dr. Herklotz is looking at information operations security, and so all aspects of keeping the information and systems secure. Dr. Bonneau will be back again to talk about our software and systems program. We don't have a program manager yet for this, but we are in a hiring action to hire somebody for this. And this program will change slightly in addressing architectures as well, because we didn't have a program looking at new software systems and architecture development at the same time in conjunction with each other. And so we want to add that capability. Dr. Nguyen looks at data fusion. We have a lot of different information coming in from different sources. A lot of that is complex and data heavy, and so he's looking at that type of issue. And finally, Dr. Darima is looking at DDDAS from physics. Then we move on to decision making. In decision making, we have two program managers. Dr. Myung is looking at the cognitive modeling, the robust decision making, and the human-machine interface. And then Dr. Lyons is looking at trust and influence. We move into the dynamic systems, optimization, control, and computational math. We have Dr. Faru, which I mentioned earlier, is managing the dynamics and control. She also is managing the computational mathematics. And then Dr. Hearn deals with all the optimization problems. And finally, in the natural materials and systems area, we have three programs. You'll hear about them tomorrow at the end. Dr. Larkin is looking at sensory information systems. He's especially interested in auditory and synergy between multiple information systems. Dr. Bradshaw has the bioenergy program, but as you heard, he is changing that, and it's going to include human performance again. And then finally, the last one's on natural materials and systems, and this is where the biomaterials work is, and that's managed by myself. Okay, these are some of the new directions that our directorate has been heading. We have additional topics of emphasis in 2012. We invested in bionavigation, and that's looking at aspects of flight. So it's incorporated into Dr. Larkin's program. We invested in neuromorphic computing, which is invested in the human performance section. So Dr. Myung is actually managing that one. Multi-scale modeling in the math section, and so Dr. Faru is actually managing that one. And then finally, the Foundations of Information Systems is a new program with Dr. Bonneau, and that's in the information sciences area. And then we added in some new BRI topics. The Bio-Nano Combinatorics is a program that I have in my own program that's looking at the bio, nano, and info structure with combinatorial arrays and how you handle that type of data. How do you make smart decisions about what structures to build in order to make that happen? We have a new BRI topic on trust and influence, and Dr. Lyons under the human performance is managing that one. And finally, the last one was design under uncertainty as a multiple program in math under both Dr. Faru and also Dr. Hearn in the optimization. In fact, Dr. Hearn also plays in this area as well. And then finally, the last areas of reduced emphasis. These are the areas that we're pretty much getting out of and just going to a monitoring mode. That's the biofuels area under Dr. Bradshaw, the agent-based system and software under the information sciences area, and the computational methods of social cultural modeling under the human performance, which is Dr. Lyons. And so with that, I'll finish up and ask if there's any questions. Yes?
Sorry, quick question. You mentioned, sorry. Thanks, Hugh. You mentioned reliance, but, or I guess you called it reliability, but you did mention resilience. I'm wondering if those are the same things given the prior steering committee emphasis on that and the criticality of that in cyber domains.
We are looking at resilience. In fact, Dr. Bonneau is looking at that in his, and in fact it's incorporated in this Foundations of Information Systems as well. But he is looking at resilience in those network systems that he's addressing. Dr. Herklotz is actually looking at that as well in his security systems to make sure that those are robust and can handle intrusion. I think he's looking at both preventing intrusion, also how do you work in a degraded environment.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, okay, thank you.